This was a great opportunity to bring together economists and people involved with political analysis on the question of Ukraine. The discussion centered mainly on the rather desperate situation that everyone acknowledged now existed in Ukraine. I would say there was a fairly pessimistic view of the very difficult choices that are going to affect the international community vis-a-vis Ukraine in the next few months. Basically, the approach to the economic crisis, which is overlaid on the geopolitical crisis in Ukraine, has been more or less muddled through. The IMF has put in a fairly substantial amount of money to get Ukraine over this very immediate period of the outbreak of the crisis. But clearly, the scenario that the IMF based this financing on was too optimistic, and they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and look again at what is likely to be a much longer and deeper economic problem than what was expected. I'd say there was a fair amount of agreement that the situation is going to be harder than originally expected for a longer period of time, that the Ukraine government is going to have to step up to the plate with some very serious efforts at structural reform, and keeping to those commitments is going to prove very difficult, especially in wartime conditions. At the same time, more money is going to be necessary, and there were a couple of different sources of financing that were discussed. The first is involvement of bondholders at the moment. Probably the only way through this muddle is going to be for some kind of restructuring agreement on the part of those bondholders. And after all of these conditions are in place, it looks very likely that there's going to have to be a substantially higher commitment of funds from other countries that want to see Ukraine remain viable as an independent state. Most of the burden here is probably going to have to fall on the EU. But all of this is going to be a very difficult balancing act, especially in the very strained geopolitical conditions that exist at the moment.